In every age of human history, people have sought strength. Some look for it in wealth, others in armies, others in political power, fame, or control over others. But the greatest strength a person can ever achieve is not found outside, it is forged within. It is the strength of the mind, the fortress of the soul, the kind of resilience that cannot be broken by insult, loss, or disaster. This was the promise of Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that still whispers its truths across centuries. And if there's ever been a time when we needed it most, it is now. Think about your own life for a moment. How often do you find yourself thrown off balance by things beyond your control? Someone criticizes you, and it echoes in your head all night. You fail at something, and the shame eats away at your confidence. A relationship breaks down, and suddenly your entire sense of self collapses with it. We live in a world where we are constantly tested. Not by swords or invading armies as the Stoics once were, but by psychological blows, disappointments, pressures, and endless uncertainty. And yet, the question remains the same: will you be broken by these storms, or will you remain unshaken? The Stoics believed that true freedom, true strength, comes not from controlling the world but from mastering ourselves. We cannot dictate what tomorrow will bring. We cannot stop death, loss, aging, or pain. But we can decide how we meet them. Epictetus, who was born a slave, crippled in body yet unbreakable in spirit, taught that while we do not control what happens, we always control our response. This idea is simple, yet it is the most powerful weapon you will ever carry. Because the one thing no one can take from you are not fortune, not circumstance, not fate, is the sovereignty of your own mind. Imagine standing in the middle of chaos. People are shouting at you, life is falling apart, plans are crumbling. A person without discipline panics, collapses, screams, or blames others. But the Stoic stands firm. Calm. Unmoved. Not because he is cold or unfeeling, but because he knows that nothing outside himself has the power to command his mind without his consent. That is what it means to build a mind that nothing can break. It is not about never feeling fear, anger, or sadness, but about never letting those emotions become your master. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, wrote his private thoughts at night in what we now call meditations. These writings were never meant to be published, they were reminders to himself to stay disciplined, to stay grounded, to stay strong in the face of chaos. In them, he constantly reminded himself that insults are just sounds, that pain is endurable, that death is natural, and that what matters most is living in accordance with virtue. Imagine the weight on his shoulders, armies to lead, enemies at the gates, plagues ravaging his cities. And yet in those private moments, his words are not about empire or conquest, but about taming his own mind. If the most powerful man in the world saw that his greatest battle was within, what excuse do we have? A mind that cannot be broken is not built overnight. It is shaped through practice, through discipline, through daily choices. Every time you resist the pull of anger, you are strengthening it. Every time you endure discomfort without complaint, you are fortifying it. Every time you choose courage over fear, reason over impulse, clarity over panic, you are training it. The Stoics called this philosophy not a system of words, but a way of life. It was meant to be lived, tested, proven in the small moments and in the great ones. Think of how often we hand over our peace to others. A stranger cuts us off in traffic, and suddenly our entire mood is ruined. A rude comment on social media, and we replay it in our head for days. A failure at work, and we let it define our worth. In all these moments, we are allowing others to hold the keys to our mind. The Stoics would say, take the keys back. No one should have more control over your thoughts than you. They can take your possessions, they can take your reputation, they can even take your life, but they cannot touch your inner freedom unless you surrender it. Seneca once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And isn't that true? How much of our anxiety is born not from actual events, but from the stories we spin in our minds? We fear the future, we replay the past, we catastrophize the present. We carry imaginary burdens heavier than real ones. But when you learn to step back, to look at your thoughts with distance, you realize that much of what torments you is nothing more than a shadow play of the mind. The Stoic Way teaches us to separate fact from judgment. To say, this event is neutral, it is my opinion that makes it good or bad. And if it is my opinion, then I can change it. The unbreakable mind is not free from hardship, it is defined by it. A Stoic does not ask for an easy life, but for the strength to endure a hard one with grace. In fact, the Stoics welcomed challenges, because each difficulty was an opportunity to practice virtue. Where others saw misfortune, they saw training. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the Stoic reversal, to see obstacles not as curses but as fuel. Imagine how much power you gain when nothing can truly harm you, because every harm becomes a lesson, every pain becomes practice, every setback becomes strength. Yet many today mistake Stoicism for emotional numbness, as if being Stoic means not caring. But the truth is the opposite. The Stoics cared deeply about justice, about courage, about wisdom, about temperance. They loved, they grieved, they felt. But they refused to be enslaved by those emotions. Love deeply, yes, but do not crumble if love is lost. Work hard, yes, but do not despair if recognition never comes. Fight for justice, yes, but do not lose your soul in the process. A Stoic mind is not a stone, it is a disciplined flame, burning steadily, neither extinguished by the winds of misfortune nor consumed by the fuel of passion. To build a mind that nothing can break, we must learn to embrace discomfort. In our modern world, we are taught to avoid pain at all costs. We seek comfort, distraction, escape. But comfort is fragile. The moment life withdraws it, we collapse. Strength, on the other hand, is forged in discomfort. The Stoics practiced voluntary hardship, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew it prepared them for when suffering arrived uninvited. They would sleep on the floor, wear simple clothes, fast, or imagine the loss of what they loved most, so that when life demanded resilience, they were ready. Compare that with our modern habits. Endless entertainment, constant consumption, a desperate chase for comfort. No wonder anxiety breaks us, our mental muscles are never trained. The Stoic way is not glamorous. It is daily discipline, quiet reflection, choosing principle over impulse. It is journaling when you would rather scroll. It is pausing to breathe when you would rather shout. It is remembering your mortality when you would rather chase meaningless distractions. It is asking yourself, is this in my control, before wasting energy on things that are not. And with each repetition, the mind becomes stronger. With each act of discipline, the fortress is built higher. But here is the paradox, a mind that nothing can break is not rigid like stone, but flexible like water. It adapts, it bends, it flows around obstacles. Rigidity breaks under pressure, but flexibility endures. The Stoics were not stubbornly clinging to one way of thinking, they were committed to reason, to aligning with nature, to seeing clearly. That clarity allowed them to face even death with serenity. When Seneca was ordered to take his own life, he did not beg, he did not rage, he accepted calmly, because he had rehearsed death in his mind all his life. That is the ultimate test of an unbreakable mind, not denying mortality, but meeting it without fear. And so, the challenge is set before us. In a world where everything tries to claim your attention, your emotions, your peace, will you give them away freely? Or will you guard them with discipline? Will you let every insult break you, every failure define you, every loss destroy you? Or will you stand like the Stoics? Calm, rational, steady, undefeated? The choice is not once in a lifetime, it is made daily, moment by moment. In how you handle a delay, in how you respond to criticism, in whether you choose patience over anger, clarity over confusion, virtue over vice. The Stoic way is not about withdrawing from life but engaging in it more fully, because when your mind is unbreakable, you can give more of yourself to the world. You are not chained by fear or insecurity. You are not tossed around by every emotion. You are free to live, to act, to love, without clinging, without trembling, without despair. That is the gift of Stoicism, not invulnerability to life, but in vulnerability to despair. And so, let us return to where we began. People throughout history have sought strength in armies, wealth, or status. But all of those can be lost in a moment. The only true strength is within. The Stoics knew this. They lived it. They passed it on. And now it is your turn. Build a mind that nothing can break. Not through wishing, but through daily practice. Begin with small acts of discipline. Train yourself to endure discomfort. Remind yourself of what is in your control and what is not. Reflect each day on your actions, your choices, your thoughts. Treat every obstacle as a chance to grow stronger. One day, life will test you, as it tests us all. Something will be taken, something will collapse, something will end. And in that moment, you will discover whether your mind is fragile or fortified. If you have walked the Stoic way, if you have built your inner fortress brick by brick, then when that moment comes, you will not fall. You will stand. And nothing, not death, not loss, not fear, will break you. Because the greatest empire is not Rome, not Greece, not any nation. It is the empire of the self, the dominion over your own mind. And that empire is yours to build. The Stoic way is the blueprint. The question is, will you build it?